Welcome to the morning call. It's is Wednesday, the 10th of June, and it's 6 a.m. in the UK. I'm in Leipzig in Germany this morning. I'm giving a training course to the European Energy Exchange. Now, looking at the charts, and I'm recording this early because I'm going to be spending the day there and won't get a chance to record charts today unless I do it now. So, looking at Brent Crude, we are bearish, still below the cloud, despite news of sort of skirmishes increasing in the Middle East, but we are still bearish below the cloud. It's almost as if the market is now just starting to ignore things there and is discounting America's desire to go to war. And we are just seeing that Brent Crude downside targets is maintaining that bear trend. WTI 86 is that key level for WTI, tested on the 29th of May, tested again yesterday, downside target there, but if we break that level, then that is also bearish for the price. So that's the backdrop of what's happening in the Middle East. Looking at the dollar, that has been stronger, just pulling back a little bit there. The Japanese yen we've talked about a bit because of that 160 level. It's been the level that the Bank of Japan has wanted to intervene at. UK sterling could still go either way. Interest rates now expected to be held in the UK. Bitcoin has been further hit, making new lows there. And if you look at the weekly chart, this really just does highlight we're below the cloud on the weekly, and we're back at levels seen in 2024. So this is actually looking very similar to a head and shoulders pattern building here. So that is bad news for Bitcoin. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, we do have some upside targets, but this is classic trending behavior: move down, sideways, move down again. Key thing is what's going on in the Nasdaq. We saw down 1% yesterday, recovered a little bit, but if we look at the 60-minute chart, you can see here big sell-off and then a little bit of buying towards the end of the day, but we are clearly below the cloud there. We fell back to that sort of previous level of support. Next level is 27,500. We don't have clear targets there, but on the S&P, we can see we're also bearish below the cloud, and we did have a downside target. Notice that the sharp sell-offs, small recoveries, sharp sell-offs is classic trending behavior. So we are just seeing a short-term sell-off, and we are seeing the futures lower today. So the Nasdaq future down a further 2%. Downside targets on the future are there, so that's really quite concerning. FTSE future down 1.3%, and the DAX in Germany, their future down 1%, where I am at the moment. So really quite key. We've got a lot of downside targets. Markets just reacting negatively, and really it's partly driven by fears that tech has run too far. This is Japan. It's also selling off, and the Sensex in India bucking the trend up 1%, but that's of little value when you look at what's been going on there on the chart. We are well below the cloud on the 60-minute and on the 10-minute. The Aussie market was relatively flat, waiting to see which way we break. So that's going to be quite key. Just looking at some of the other products in soft commodities, coffee. We talked about this breakdown being quite key. Downside target that's been met. Looking at cocoa. Equally, this is actually looking a little bit better for a recovery, but recoveries can take time. This is really not a clear recovery. And then sugar, which has been very, very bearish, waiting to see which way we break there. When I say very, very bearish, when you look at the weekly chart, that is pretty bearish. The daily chart, waiting to see which way we break. And the 60-minute chart, we've got downside targets. Watch that 1390 level. That's going to be quite key. Grains have started to look like a bit of a recovery. That was a really clear short-term trend on wheat. Look at the daily chart on wheat. Also, that's just the failed recovery element. And then corn also just breaking lower there, so not looking so good. Gold. Now, I did cover gold earlier on on TradingView. You can watch my TradingView calls. If you follow me, David_Linton at TradingView, that's quite key. But if you look here at gold, we are making 2-year lows, so that's not good. And then silver also making new lows as well. So we are seeing precious metals really selling off. We're seeing a little bit of respite in bond yields, down slightly. Japan is not so good news. We are seeing Japanese yields still rising. So that is a bit worrying, although that candle is looking a little bit engulfing there. So maybe that is some good news. If we can activate that downside target, that would give Japan quite a lot of relief. Looking at the Mag 7, they were mostly lower. Apple was really badly hit yesterday. And looking at the 60-minute chart, it's just really falling out of bed. Just couldn't really break above that 317 level. Amazon were down slightly. Google bucked the trend. They were up slightly. But their downside targets are there. Microsoft, this recovery is starting to look like a failed recovery. If we look at the daily chart, we're giving up some of the gains. Nvidia were down 0.2%. Tesla also lower ahead of the SpaceX launch. And interestingly, lower high, lower low, that is bearish price action. And we look at the 60-minute chart, you'll see the downside targets that were met there. Just a quick look at the Dow. The top performers in the Dow were Home Depot, defensive. Starting to look a little bit better on the short-term chart, but the daily chart, still bearish trend. A lot of these defensive still in bearish trends. Nike, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola is actually looking better. And Amex up 2%. So seeing that there's an improvement there. Looking at the Nasdaq 100, we could see that the best performers in SMED, but still a bear trend there on the daily chart. And if we go to strategy, big investors in Bitcoin, of course, down 8%. Merrill Technology down, ARM down 6%. We're seeing a lot of these stocks, chip stocks, giving up gains. So that's quite key. And stocks like Adobe, software that was badly hit, still going lower, and the same with Adobe as well. We just failed recovery at the moment, not actually managing to break to new highs. That's it for today. Have a great day. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.